After 70, these 9 things suddenly make no sense anymore. Margaret sat in her favorite chair by the window, sipping tea as the sun spilled golden light across the garden. At 72, she had grown used to quiet mornings and the rhythm of time slowing down. But something else had shifted too. Things that once mattered deeply, things that seemed unquestionable in her younger years, now looked oddly out of place, even absurd. She started jotting them down in a small notebook she kept beside her knitting basket. It wasn't just nostalgia or the haze of memory, it was clarity, a new kind of seeing. 1. Chasing status. In her working years, Margaret had climbed ladders, both metaphorical and literal. She had been a manager, a community leader, a parent, and a partner. There had been promotions, titles, and shiny plaques with her name engraved. But now, none of it mattered. The status games felt like elaborate costumes in a play that had ended. What mattered now was if people were kind, not if they were impressive. She watched young professionals walk by her house with tense shoulders, phones glued to their ears, voices tight with urgency. She wanted to stop them and say, "It's not what you think. None of it is what you think." 2. Keeping up with trends. Once she'd known every fashion must-have and every new kitchen gadget. Now, the idea of keeping up felt exhausting and pointless. The clothes that made her feel good were the ones that fit well and felt soft. She didn't care whether the jeans were bootcut or skinny. The only trend she followed was comfort. Her granddaughter once asked why she didn't want to join a TikTok challenge. Margaret had chuckled. "Darling, I've already danced through enough decades. Let the kids have their turn." Not 3. Arguing to win. In her 50s, Margaret had enjoyed a good debate. She'd sharpen her wit, prepare her points, and go head-to-head with anyone, colleagues, family, even strangers online. But sometime in her 60s, she started letting go of the need to be right. Winning no longer felt like a prize. It felt like a wall. Now, when a neighbor spouted a wild conspiracy theory or a relative got defensive over politics, she'd nod politely and steer the conversation elsewhere. It wasn't cowardice. It was peacekeeping, owning more stuff. There had been a time when she'd longed for a bigger house, newer car, and all the trappings of success. But in retirement, stuff became a burden. Every object was something to clean, fix, or eventually give away. She had begun downsizing with pleasure, not regret. The freedom of living with less was intoxicating. Her favorite days were when she gave things away, her wedding china to her daughter, her husband's old tools to a young neighbor. Let someone else build memories with them now. 5. Worrying what others think. This one fell away almost without her noticing. In youth, she had been cautious, worried about how she looked, how she sounded, if she'd said the wrong thing. She wore the right shoes, smiled at the right moments, laughed when expected. But at 72, she wore wild colors if she liked them, told the truth when it was kind, and let silence hang when needed. What other people thought of her had no effect on her sleep, her tea, or her garden. That made it irrelevant. 6. Multitasking. She used to juggle kids, career, marriage, errands, all at once. Her brain had spun like a plate balancing act. Now multitasking seemed absurd. Why rush through 5 things and enjoy none? She liked doing one thing well, even if that thing was sitting in the sun doing nothing. Slowing down didn't feel like giving up. It felt like waking up. 7. Holding grudges. She'd carried a few heavy grudges through her middle years. A betrayal from a friend, a misunderstanding with a sibling. But with age came a strange perspective. How small so many of those wounds were, and how short life was to hold on to pain. One night, she called her sister after a 5-year silence. They didn't rehash the past. They just talked. It was enough. Touch 8. Pretending to be someone you're not. Margaret used to perform versions of herself. Professional Margaret, Mom Margaret, Church Margaret. She had roles, and each had its expectations. But now, the performances were over. She didn't feel a need to pretend anymore. If she wanted to wear pajamas all day, she did. If she didn't want to go to a dinner, she didn't. If she didn't agree with something, she said so, or didn't if it wasn't worth it. It was freeing, being no one but herself. Postponing joy. This, perhaps, was the biggest thing that no longer made sense. Putting off happiness. So many times she had waited for the weekend, the vacation, the raise, the retirement. Joy had always been on the other side of achievement, but now she saw joy was in the everyday, the softness of her dog's ears, the sound of her granddaughter's laughter, a good book, an unexpected letter, a ripe peach. These weren't small pleasures, they were the point of it all. She once heard someone say that people spend the first half of their lives collecting things, and the second half learning to let go. She now believed that, and the things she let go of had made room for something deeper: gratitude, calm, connection. That afternoon, she looked out at the roses in bloom and smiled. Life still had mysteries. Her joints ached, yes, and names sometimes escaped her like wisps of wind, but she had never felt clearer. Things made sense again, but not in the way they used to, not in the world's way, in her way. And maybe that was the greatest wisdom of all.